Hello everyone, it's Steve with Aptera Owners Club. So this is a video that I've been thinking about making for a while, and I've been avoiding it mainly because I think it'll make pretty much everyone upset because no one's going to agree with me. And also, um, I don't want to give off this impression that I have some insider information or knowledge that makes my opinion better than anyone else's opinion. But I have this channel and I have been following Aptera for a long time, and I think some of you are probably interested in my opinion about this thing and understand where I'm coming from. Like, pretty much, I have a lot to gain if Aptera succeeds. One, I run a YouTube channel called Aptera Owners Club, and my channel will most likely die if Aptera does not succeed. And also, if Aptera becomes a large success, it's probable that my channel will also become a large success because currently it's probably the most viewed channel solely dedicated to Aptera. Now, there's other people that cover Aptera with large followings, but it's not completely dedicated to Aptera. So, yeah, if Aptera succeeds, my YouTube channel succeeds. If Aptera does not succeed, my YouTube channel also does not succeed. Also, I'm an investor, and so my investment would do better. And also, I have so many referrals that theoretically I could possibly get multiple free Apteras if Aptera succeeds. So, lots of reasons that um, Aptera succeeding would be personally good for me. So, and also, I'm a huge fan of Aptera, which is why I started the channel, and I remain a huge fan. I love the vehicle, and I would like for it to become a reality. All right, so that being said, um, I just had this interview with Chris Anthony on July.
I think it's commendable, Steve, that you are finally exposing your bias. I guess my only thoughts would be should have been done sooner and probably more frequently in a lot of your videos, along with especially during the time at which you became the authoritative channel for Aptera when they removed their forum on their website. I think ever since that point and forward, there need to be a lot more, I guess, care taken in terms of disclaimers as to your biases toward Aptera and your videos that yeah, we can probably come across more as we go, but kudos to calling out the fact that it's pretty much apparent and obvious to me, anyways, it has been for a long, long time, that yes, you're making some financial gains off of this channel to the tune of anywhere from 1,000 a month to upwards of 5,000 a month when you add up all your coffee club members and YouTube channel members and maybe even the number of hits payoffs from YouTube, which are far nominal compared to your club members because that membership is pretty devout and you've grown it yourself. So kudos to you. It's not chump change. It's something that I think you should be a little bit concerned about losing. I would be, and I again, I congratulate you at least coming forward or coming clean on your biases toward the newbie user who might not know much about this channel. Although I followed this channel for many, many years, I haven't watched it too often, only recently when it became obvious to me that Aptera was not only going to fail, but they persist in continuing these crowdfunding sources, even post the USCG, the very miserably failed USCG efforts to get the credited investors that do have backing and information access to analyst work, and so the regular public does not have access to, and they do rely on channels like yours and the others that spotlight or highlight Aptera in many of their videos, but like you said, are not primarily focused on Aptera. So I think you have more pull and say than you have admitted to in the past. and probably don't still believe, or at least kind of wash your hands of any responsibility toward. I believe you do have a responsibility, and that many of these investors, even as of lately and probably even earlier, have invested on a whim based on a lot of your analysis work and your videos, which are flawed, but a lot of people without following it intimately aren't going to be able to find those counterpoints, because there really are few ones out, very few channels out there that challenge a lot of these, a lot of the videos you create. LC Idea Guys being one of them. However, he does it in a style that's probably not as appealing as you do and you perform. So sadly, I don't think people get the message that there are valid points in a lot of the things he has to say. With that all said, I'm going to continue this and just pause at times when I feel the need to offer some kind of counterpoint.
July 16th, and I really appreciate that Chris takes time out of his busy schedule to talk to some guy sitting in his study with a YouTube channel at 9 p.m. at night. I think that says a lot. And I always, um,
Yeah, that doesn't say anything to me. Sorry. I mean, his sole income for the past 6 years minimum has been, and obviously more if you take a look at my Aptera SOS site, um, has been based on crowdsourced funds. And you are the primary instrument today, as of December, or earlier than that, to be honest, for his livelihood. So for him to take an hour out of an evening at 9 o'clock, it doesn't impress me. No, sorry.
enjoy talking to Chris, and I think he does the best he can with these interviews. He is handcuffed quite a bit by um,
So that's a statement you've made regularly throughout many of your videos, the ones I've seen anyways, where these founders, and that's an actual argument made throughout the Aptera Owners Club Discord discussions, that somehow these guys are handcuffed by the SEC and all the legalities of a startup to not portraying a timeline the way. That's absolute bullshit. I'm sorry. It is. It's absolute bullshit. They have been able to, yeah. Anyways, that's bullshit. And yeah, so I'm not impressed, and you're full of shit.
by wanting to present things that are good for the company. And also, there are rules. They are planning on becoming a public company at this point, and they have to become a reporting company. And SEC has many rules about how information can be disseminated, and it cannot be disseminated through stuff like this. It,
So it's a very generic term and claim you're making. It's a broad brush stroke, as many of them are. Give me a specific example. Come on, just try one. I don't hear any. So sorry. It's not a baby thrown out with the bathwater. There is no baby in the bathwater. It's just pure garbage.
it needs to be disseminated through like official channels, and they also have to be very careful about the things that they say, because they are now trying to become a public company at some point. So I think he gives the best answers he can. All right, so here's the things that I've noticed in the comments, and I tried to ask the questions that were important to me, and I think were important to a lot of people. And people were saying, "Oh, well, he like never gave an answer. He just dances around it, and he doesn't give an answer." I think some of the people that are making these comments are basically wanting me to get like a gotcha interview, where I'm like I'm out to like get them, and they're not going to be satisfied until I deliver that kind of thing. That's not my goal. That's not my point. My point is to ask the questions that are on people's minds and just give them an opportunity to answer or not answer. And I'm not.
So yeah, nobody's really, I think, asking you to pin him to the wall with questions. I don't think that's been, at least, certainly not inside the Aptera Owners Club, but even outside the Aptera Owners Club. Yes, we think I think he's definitely a shady character. I question a lot of his intentions. I don't think he has the same effort levels that you give him credit for. I think that the there are so many questions you could ask to not pin him against the wall, but to ask about what went wrong here and in specific, not in these general discussions we're having right now, but specifically. And I would invite anybody listening to this to join the Relational Aptera Discord channel, which is unofficial. That is, I'll put an invite code in the description to this video as well as I have in the last couple, and you'll hear many people with legitimate complaints and legitimate questions better than I have for these founders, and they're worthy of listening to and worthy of exploring. Those are the questions you refuse to listen to, Steve, and you refuse to ask these two guys. So, yeah, I think your questions are lacking, and I think their responses are generic, broad brush. Again, just mainstay kind of statements or lines that will give you give the opportunity for all the excuses to the problems that they've faced and failed at, and the community goes crazy on those excuses and doesn't want to listen to anything else or anybody else who says anything critical. And so, yeah, it's a cycle. And I don't think scammers are necessarily born. I think they're made. And I think you started the video out with a very adept understanding of what creates that for you yourself. You have a very intuitive motive and a very motivated way, admittedly so, which is great, to make this as make the excuses for the mistakes and paint them in the best light because you're making money on it. It makes sense to me. Should make sense to anybody watching you, but I don't think many people do. That's why in pre 2013s we had laws on the books that prevented crowdsourced style fundraising in and the way that these guys have taken it to a absurd level is today criminal. Okay, 2019, you say it's been risky. All startups are risky. That's true. Your latest video where you were giving, playing Pontius Pilate and washing your hands of the guilt of any of this is stating, well, all startups are guilty. If you're going to say they're going to fail, you're going to be right 90% of the time, blah, blah, blah. Look at, you've been following this company pretty intensely, probably more intensely than anybody else. And in 2019 to 2021, yeah, I'd say that was a high risk investment, like any other startup out there. But people were listening to some of the dialogue that continues today and investing in it. Like myself, I put upwards of $23,000 into this company. After 2023, in my mind, it became stupid to invest in this company. Flat out stupid. Today, it's criminal. I think your behavior and their behavior combined, especially, is criminal. I don't think they should be taking a single dollar from anybody. And the fact that they are, and they're continuing to do these same exact campaigns with the emails of only so many days left to get in on an advanced delivery, is criminal. That's my standpoint. Sue me if you like. I don't care.
I'm not gonna push it. I'm not trying to um, get them into a corner and corner them. That's not what I'm good at, and that's not what I want to do. And also, they just can't do it. Again, there's lots of things that Chris is not able to say. Okay, number two, um, people are one of the things are like, well, they've never given us any information. They've done the they did the wind tunnel test with Pininfarina a long time ago. We never got any kind of coefficient of drag or any data from this. I mean, they have some data from this, but it's not been presented to the public. And then they've done track testing, and we've gotten some like little snippets of data from it, but not real data. And then there was that road trip from Flagstaff to Carlsbad, and we didn't get any real data from that. We have to extrapolate out a lot of things. So why is that happening? I have my reasons why I think it is. Here's why I think, they could release the data, and I think people that follow Aptera religiously, like I would personally love to see the data. It would be interesting. It would give me stuff to look at, and we could talk about it, and we would understand that this is preliminary data. So here's why I think that they're not doing it. And I think they're not presenting it for a very specific reason. One is presumably the data is not as good as they wanted it to be. So like I don't think the efficiency is like 100 watt hours per mile, per watt hours per mile. Yeah, I don't think it's that good. If it was, I think they would release it, because that would look good. But what if the efficiency is like 130 or 140 or something, and then people that are following Aptera, they would know, okay, yeah, that's preliminary data from a prototype. It's going to get better. They're fine tuning things. We understand that. However, people that don't follow Aptera, this kind of stuff gets out in the press, and they'll have headlines like Aptera fails to reach efficiency targets, or Aptera does not reach the projected efficiency target.
And what is so wrong with that? I ask you, Steve, why would you not? Why is it you fend off criticisms and critics? You, yeah. Why would you, especially from a company that's raising funds from the public? You want a 360-degree view of that company out there everywhere for everyone who's considering pumping a dollar into this company. I don't get that standpoint. As a matter of fact, I think that just exposes the criminality in your thinking. And it's a criminal, it's not intention. It's not, I believe it's not your intention to act like a criminal. But the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I'm telling you this right now. This is exactly what's going on here. You don't see it. You don't see it because you've got a very myopic view and you're so obtuse that you won't listen to anybody else out there. And that's a problem. That's a real problem in a situation where the 2013 laws of investors being able to invest in something like this have changed. We've opened up the marketplace. Obama did this. Sadly, again, unintended consequences for companies like this to take advantage of. And they are. And that's plain and simple in my mind. And I don't see how anybody else doesn't see that way. But I'm willing to be listen to them respectfully and be respectful to them, including yourself. Although I don't like your behaviors, I'm sure you're a great guy. I'm sure of it. I would be a lot of fun at a beach party, all that kind of stuff. But these behaviors are nuts. And it's got to end because to me it's upsetting. Not only have I lost money, of course, my own stupid decisions, I get it. So have a lot of people, and they continue to sell these slots. I think the last couple days of counts were 38 and 24. I've got a chart on it on my website. Go to the fundraising subpage. You'll see it. It's crazy. It's the same site, by the way, I used to use to promote this accelerator campaign, for instance, and the funds they were collecting at the time, because we were hopeful at the time that they were going to follow through with a lot of their promises that sat flat. And by the way, you've never talk about pinning to the wall. All you have to do is follow up with an interview after those types of events to ask what happened. You never did that. I haven't seen any of that. That's why I stopped listening to your channel until recently when I just got fed up with the idea that they're still collecting money from the public. So that's my soapbox on that one.
It's that kind of stuff. These are the headlines that are going to obviously come out, and then a lot of people that don't follow Aptera closely or peripherally, or first time they hear about it, they're going to just write it off, which I think is very unfair. So
So then there's your argument against having just blanket set criticisms out there. Well, you're a blanket set positive out there, and you're trying to say, I don't influence people, I'm just a fan channel. Yet, why is it the blanket critics would somehow be at fault for negatively influencing them? How does that balance out in your brain? It doesn't make sense to me. It's, here on one hand, you're saying, well, then they would unfairly influence people who could be potential investors. Well, why aren't you unfairly influencing them by posting your channel as only a fan channel? without a balanced set of questions or a balanced set of analysis work. I mean, all your analysis, quote unquote, is excuses for the reasons why you think and speculation on future moves. Yeah, you don't think that has an influence, yet a blank, yeah. Okay, so figure that one out yourself.
I think that's what they're trying to avoid by releasing this information. Or it could be the other way around. Maybe the efficiency numbers are really good, but they're afraid that their production car won't exactly reach those numbers, and they don't want to have people expecting these really good numbers. But then when they finish the production car, it's not going to be the number. So while I personally wish that they would release more
So,
numbers,
yeah, okay. So Steve, here's how you get around that. You literally give all the information you can about the test parameters, about the vehicle itself. You dive into the details. You don't predict them, you don't analyze them. You let guys like you and me come up with our theories and our predictions and our analysis work, but all they have to do is present all the data. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. And then they're scot free, but they won't even produce the data because I don't believe they're even collecting the data properly or in a fashion that is worthy of publishing. There's so many moving variables in the work that they're doing all the time, daily, as they redesign and retool continuously, even though they call them production intent and validation vehicles and efforts. It's bullshit. And I think that's where they would get criticized and fall down, is they can't even collect the data accurately and measurably for publishing, period.
and give us validation information because it would be really fun to follow along. I think what they're doing is actually wise, waiting until they have an actual, real, full production Aptera to run the numbers on, and then release that.
And there you have it. It's all of a sudden a wise declaration on Steve's part that the community will all say amen to. And from then on, any naysayer like myself who happens to publish anything inside the Discord, well, I can't anymore because they kicked me out of there. But anybody who has any style of criticism to that point would, of course, use that fact that they're being wise as declared by our high priest, would just dismiss them. And it's sad. It's a sad state of affairs that you're the leader for.
That, which is what they are saying that they're planning to do. Okay, so that's my feelings on that part. Um, and then there's a bunch of people who are just second guessing what Chris Anthony and Steve Fambro and the Aptera team are doing, and they're saying, oh, I can totally do a better job. They're doing this, this, and this, and this wrong. And, it's so easy to play armchair quarterback. I think what they're trying to do is just really hard. It's really hard. And I honestly believe that they.
Yeah, of course, it's really hard. The fact of the matter is the evidence of history here has proven out that they're unqualified. And there's no doubt about it. I mean, the discussions we have from some of the contributors inside the unofficial Discord, they're obviously people with shipping, supply chain experience, even production experience, and they point out the flaws on a daily basis. It's evident, it's clear. You can refute it, and they will respectfully negate. They'll respectfully come up with their backings, their reasons why. That's the point. That's the total point. You don't have to walk away from that discussion believing anything they tell you, but you do have to walk away respectful to the other people. You can't call them trolls. You can't call them any names, or I will personally kick you out of the Discord or off my YouTube channel. I have, and I'll do it every time. I don't care what the topic of discussion is. This isn't a group to design the vehicle itself. There is no objective reality. Everybody's reality has a worthy place in the discussion, and everybody needs to respect everybody else's. That's the only requirement. Everything else is up for grabs. You're willing to say anything you want. You just have to do it in a manner that's respectful, period. And that's what's missing from the Aptera Owners Club, is that's been allowed, that bashing and name calling and kicking off people who are legitimately just trying to make points like myself is In my mind, that's a criminal behavior. That's called under FTC uh, not divulging, especially when you are supporting a company that's collecting average everyday Joes off the street funds, like myself, and you're kicking people out of the discussion, silencing voices that are critical. That is illegal behavior. That's still illegal on the books today. And I've said it many times in the Discord group. If I were a wealthy white guy, I could literally have my team of lawyers go after you guys and be successful. I'm confident of it. But not only am I not a wealthy white guy, I'm not interested. I wouldn't. I think there are wealthy white guys out there that could do it and probably, thought about it maybe, especially the top 10 maybe of the accelerator campaign, but they don't think it's worth their time. But it would be successful. You guys are the behavior is criminal, including yourself, Steve. So I sure hope you have an LLC that you're operating under for this YouTube channel.
They are trying hard. They're trying their best to do it. Now, maybe their best isn't good enough. That's a possibility. But I don't know. I've never done anything like this. I think
Yeah, they don't get excuses. Not when they don't get excuses like that from me. Not when they're collecting the sums of money that they collect from the average person out there. You either got to be good at it and show it, and you got to be held accountable by channels like your own, or you don't do it. Period. That's just my standpoint. There's other people even within my Discord that think differently, and that's okay by me. That's fine by me to think differently. I respect their opinions. I just have my own.
it's super hard. And I think unless your name is Elon Musk, Peter Rawlinson, or RJ Scarridge, you just really don't know. And your opinion is about as worth as much as we paid to get it. So yeah, unless you're one of those three people, you don't actually know what's involved, and you think you know what's involved, and you think you have the right.
I think that's pretty cheap shot too. I think more people than the wealthy names you named are very brilliant and very well studied and very well experienced at this type of activity and have a lot of valid things to say. Just the few I've interacted with on the unofficial Discord are obviously very smart people, smarter than I am on these topics. And so, yeah, that's a real slap in the mouth of the average, well, the sub wealthy. I shouldn't say average because I don't find any of those on your list any impressive features. I find luck to be in the category of a lot of them. And a lot of skills, a lot of perseverance, a lot of blah, blah, blah. But luck is the big magic word that never gets discussed in our culture. And yeah, I find them lucky, but no less than, no better than any other person on this planet.
The right answer. But there's a lot of things you don't know. There's a lot of things I don't know. There's things that they're trying, and every time I talk to them, I get the I get the impression that all these things that people talk about in the comments, yeah, they've thought of it. Okay, it's not it, like we aren't as smart as we think. It's people that do this every day and it's their job and they think about it. They have definitely thought about the thing that some guy watching a YouTube channel commenting in the comments has thought about. It's not like the things that people are suggesting are things that are revolutionary and new and are so amazingly smart that only they have thought of this thing. Okay, and then I think I wanted to talk about finances, but I think I need to collect my thoughts more about the finances before I do it. So maybe I'll do that in another video. Well, so let me know what you guys think about transparency. How important is transparency, and what do you think Aptera needs to do with transparency in balancing the wants of like rabid fans like us versus the risk of having preliminary data numbers and other things be, put into headlines for people that are discovering Aptera for the first time or peripherally following Aptera, and have a risk a narrative that kind of gets out of control and hurts the company in the long term. I think that's sort of the metric that they're balancing, and I think that they're making a good decision on it. Although I would like them to release more information. Just for me personally, I just would like more information. But in the whole calculus of everything, I think they're making the best decision actually by not releasing preliminary information. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.
Well, as you surmise here already, I'm certain. I'm going to get rid of this one. I don't agree with
Chuck,
a lot of
got another explainer for you.
All right. Sounds good.
I go.
Awesome. I don't agree with a lot of that assessment and that final analysis statement. I will state that in terms of transparency, my sense is that because they are at the lowest level of crowdsourced funds, they can't collect from those who have analysis capabilities in teams, the ones that Chris Anthony dismissed in one of the interviews. I can't remember which one, where he seemed to dismiss them or poo-poo these analysts because they don't understand our market segment, what we're trying to do, which is a bunch of hooey. They know exactly what you're trying to do. They know how you're going about it, and they throw it away. They don't know what to do with it. Yeah, they know what to do with it. They throw it in the trash bin because it's garbage, and that's rightfully so. But the average guy like me on the street who might be working full time and has kids and a family and blah, 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 and tries to do hobbies and what have you, isn't going to have the time to do all that analysis work. I don't have a team for me to do that analysis work. But if I decide to throw $5,000 into this company, that's my own choice, and I'm the one who pays the price. So I think in that situation, they do have an obligation for more transparency, the maximum of which they could give at the extent of the law. Now, they can't give any insider information pre-IPO, and I'm sure there's certain time frames in there. There's certain things they can and cannot talk about during those stages, but they haven't been anywhere near any of those stages. So I don't think any of these rules you keep excusing them for apply, period. And again, you'd have to bring up a specific example that could be vetted, and you don't. You bring them in broad brush stroke statements that give your community the ability to just excuse away any of their behaviors, their missteps, and their mistakes, of which there are plenty. And nobody wants to hear about them. So they walk around in these, small community groups. Small, I'm saying whatever, 2,000 maybe, 2,000 listeners. I'd say there's only a dozen or so active contributors, and maybe 17 out of the 17,000 investors who follow your channel, or 16 and a half, whatever you got, and that's it. I mean, that's what you're talking about. But for any newbie coming in to that community, all they're going to hear is one side of the story, and it's so damaging to those newbies. So I implore you to broaden your scope, interview some people like myself who are critics, outward spoken critics of their tactics and their behaviors. I might not be the best one because I'm not the most knowledgeable, but invite some of these guys from the Discord, the unofficial Discord, to join. I know they're on both sides, but they keep coming back and reporting, well, they just get clobbered every time they try and present an idea. I believe it. I experienced that up until I got kicked out, because here's what I did. I posted, I think it was a link to a frontline expose on mental health, and it was The Right to Fail. It was a great expose that backed the argument that we need laws in place to prevent people that don't have the ability or access to information and resources like the wealthy people do have, the rich. And I separate out wealthy from rich because wealthy is a whole nother bucket. They're the aristocracy of modern age that run our country in reality. Trump doesn't run our country, the wealthy do. And that's the wealthy class. So the rich class, they're in the tens of millions of dollars, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars in terms of personal wealth. That's the rich. The wealthy are in the billion-dollar class. And that's a whole another stupid logarithmic level on the graph that shouldn't exist in my mind, but that's a whole nother discussion. The point being that even the rich class has access to resources and support that the common paycheck to paycheck person like myself doesn't really have access to. And therefore, they lean on channels like yours, sadly, and they make decisions off channels like yours and other pieces of information out there alone, sadly, and they make mistakes. And we need protecting that group from making those decisions, such as we had pre-2013 and the changes to the investment acts. So I think that I'm off my soapbox now. I'll do another crossfire to your second video if you're going to do one on finances, but I look forward to it. So have at it. Too bad it's asynchronous. I would love to get on a call with you. However, again, I would say there's better people for you to invite and get onto a very heady discussion about Aptera and maybe crowdsourcing in general. I'd love to be a part of crowdsourcing in general conversation, but if you want specifics about Aptera and their missteps, I've got plenty of people I can recommend. At least I got their usernames. I don't know their real names. And I don't know if they'd want to. I think they probably work in industries where they would be embarrassed to participate online. So sadly, you probably won't get the access to that style of crossfire discussion, but you should. And if not, at least explore it on your own so that you can present their ideas fairly in a balanced approach on your channel and not be deemed by guys like me who consider it to be criminal behavior.